Hi, I'm Daria, and I'm making a game called The Land Forgotten. Now, I say I'm making this game, but there are currently 3 other people working on this project. So please allow me to introduce Nicole Gallagher, who's responsible for the environment design, Xiaoyin Luo, our watercolor artist, and Michelle Ross, an animator on the project. The Land Forgotten has a very unique visual style, since all our backgrounds are painted by hand in traditional watercolor medium. So today's devlog is all about how we create our backgrounds from the concept to the final piece. The work on any level in The Land Forgotten always starts with design. I like to create initial plans for the levels on paper. That way, I can plan out and visualize the levels without any digital constraints, and it allows me to work on them from anywhere, like a coffee shop or a park. Once my initial thoughts are down in a notebook, I can start formalizing them in GIMP or Photoshop. That's when I specify how different environments connect to one another and where are the important objects placed. Next stage is prototyping the level in Unity. That's the game engine we're using. At this stage, I usually use simple gray boxes to indicate object placement, but sometimes I create rough drawings to give an idea what the environment is going to look like. Once the level is playable in this early form, I start testing. Oftentimes, players interact with the game differently from the way I intended it, so I revise the initial designs to adjust the general clarity of the levels and the difficulty of the puzzles. Once I'm happy with the result, it's time to discuss the level backgrounds with Nicole. At this stage, we look through the level plan and talk about how it affects different areas. Sometimes we end up changing the initial plan. Some backgrounds get combined into a single long one, and others separated into multiple smaller ones. One thing I love about working with Nicole is that she puts a lot of thought into what the environments are going to look like based on the people that live there, the cultures, and the surrounding weather conditions. She's very diligent with her research. We keep shared Pinterest boards where we both add inspirations for different environments. Before the work on the new area begins, we usually look at those references together and see which ideas would work or not. I find that this process helps us make the environments unique and keeps us from falling into a lot of tropes that often come with fantasy-themed art. It also allows us to make sure we are on the same page with the general mood and ideas. Next, Nicole creates some rough sketches to show the composition she has in mind. She usually creates multiple versions so that we can discuss which ones work best. Once we agree on the general look, she uses one of the sketches to create a more defined background. Nicole is very skilled at creating believable perspectives. She uses 2 grids to see how the different shapes need to be placed in the environment. Some of the backgrounds have important environmental elements, such as weapons or statues, in which case Nicole will sometimes design them separately. That way, we can have a discussion about which design is a better fit for the story. After all those decisions are made, Nicole makes a clean line drawing of an environment. Then comes shading, the last stage of this digital design process. Nicole decides where the light comes from and uses it to set the overall mood. On a different game, that would be the end of an environment creation. But for us, it's only the beginning. Because this is where Xiaoyin Luo comes in and starts her work on the watercolor background. Xiaoyin is an amazing artist who specializes in traditional medium, and her classical painting style gives The Land Forgotten its unique look. Before starting her work, Xiaoyin prints out the digital version of the background. She then makes a small watercolor sketch, which the actual environment will be based on. This sketch helps us see the color palette and decide if it works based on the other backgrounds and the general mood of the level. Next, she creates a pencil line drawing of the background. Xiaoyin uses a light table to trace it to make sure that the perspective and object placement is correct. The painting of the background itself usually comes in a few stages. The first layer of the painting is a broad wash that shows the overall tone. Next is a more defined version. And in the end, Xiaoyin applies some extra details as needed. Once the watercolor painting is complete, we need to digitize it. We first tried scanning the paintings to get the most high-res result. However, the quality of the scans wasn't as good as we wanted them to be, so we switched to using a DSLR camera. Once the image is ready, I apply color correction to make it fit in with the rest of the level. Certain longer backgrounds are painted as separate images, which I combine together in Photoshop. Foreground parts in front of the character need to be cut out and placed on a separate layer, and the sky needs to be tiled in order to achieve cyclical movement. Occasionally, backgrounds will have other moving parts. Those are painted separately and then cut out and added on top of the background with animation applied to them. Some backgrounds require parallax movement. That's when different parts of the environment move at different speed, depending on where they are positioned comparing to the camera and the character. The further away parts move slower and the closer ones faster. For those cases, Xiaoyin paints different parts of the background on separate pieces of paper, and I then cut them out and place them on different layers. Once the background is ready, I place it into Unity and add icons for object interactions. I also set the character scale and the path of her movement. The work on The Land Forgotten is still in progress, and there are many things I want to do to make the backgrounds more engaging. I want to add effects and make the different parts of the backgrounds be animated. I want to make sure that the characters cast shadows and that their own lighting changes depending on the environment. But all of that is a layer of polish that I will focus on later, once the game is at a good and playable stage. For now, I'm very happy with the process we created and the look of the game we were able to achieve. If you'd like to see more art from The Land Forgotten, you can follow my Instagram and join the game's Discord server. I post in-progress images in the Land Forgotten art channel. I hope you enjoyed this devlog. See you in the next one.